Hello, everybody. Eric Foster, Vice President of Strategy, Research, and Policy at Banks and Company. Wanted to talk to you about today's ruling by the Supreme Court in the Louisiana v. Callais case and its impact on voting rights, but also from a strategy vantage point, how should blue states, Democratic majority voting states, look at this as a potential opportunity from a economic development and a population attraction standpoint. So, just to give you some context, the Supreme Court today ruled in the case regarding redistricting in Louisiana that the Louisiana congressional district that was drawn and represented by Congressman Cleo Fields was drawn illegally because of it being a gerrymander against a second majority minority district, which then was created to remedy the effect of not having representative population in the congressional district mapping. And so, to that particular point, they've now reversed the corrective action, which means that in Louisiana, the likelihood that they will redraw the district for Congressman Fields from a majority minority back to a majority white and a majority MAGA Republican voting district is as certain as the morning and the evening. Now, based on that, that is going to probably start a cascade of these sorts of activities in MAGA controlled states around the country, not just in the South. Let's start with the South first. So, Alabama, Arkansas at a legislative level, because they've already drawn their congressional districts extremely in this fashion. Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, conceivably North Carolina, as well as conceivably Georgia. But the challenge in both of those states is in those two states, one, in North Carolina, the statewide elected officials, except for one, are Democrats. The Board of Elections is still a Democratic majority, although tightly holding on by the skin of its teeth. And the potential likelihood that you would have the legislature to have the ability to, well, actually, you know what? And that is actually going to be a problem in North Carolina because the governor can't veto a redistricting map. So you've got a likelihood that that's going to happen in North Carolina. But in Georgia, you've got a good likelihood that you might get a Democratic governor or possibly a Democratic attorney general elected who would have the ability to challenge or block or to veto such a initiative to change legislative and congressional districts in Georgia, which you don't have a supermajority in the Georgia legislature that's MAGA. Thank God you've got a, although it's a MAGA Republican majority, it's still close enough where Democrats can block the veto necessary to override the, override, they can block the attempt to override the governor's veto if it's a Democratic governor. So, but in those particular states, the likelihood that legislative and congressional seats are going to be redrawn to remove seats that favor African American representation, Hispanic American representation, a plurality that's non white as a majority representation, where you have Asian American or Indigenous American or Arab American or Jewish American representation. is once again as certain as day and night. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so these things are going to happen, and not just in the South. And I think we have to look a little bit deeper than just the South. And I think we have to look at the other MAGA controlled states that are in the plains area, such as in the Dakotas, in Wyoming, in Kansas, in Nebraska, in Oklahoma, where at a legislative level, you have a number of seats that are drawn favorably to one, pack in Democratic voters, but also pack in minority voters to give you majority minority legislative districts in states like North and South Dakota, where you have a good number of, in Montana, where you have a good number of indigenous Americans representatives in their legislatures, or in Oklahoma, where you have Black and indigenous and Hispanic legislators. You can see a likelihood of those bodies doing the same thing. So there would be a full on onslaught, in addition to the punitive and dictatorial stature that those state governments take in regards to anything that's not MAGA aligned. So, why is this a potential opportunity for Democratic majority voting states? Because before the 2030 census comes out, the opportunity to attract people to your state and increase the numbers so that it matches with both the legislative and the congressional reapportionment as defined in the Constitution gives you a huge opportunity to grow the numbers and reverse the population declines that have cost seats in New York, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, not so much in Maryland, but Maryland could be a growth opportunity. In other states like Wisconsin, in California, Colorado, Arizona. So there's opportunities in these particular states, Washington, Oregon, etc., to open up the door from a marketing vantage point to really lean in on the way that in Democratic majority states, there's more personal freedom, more business freedom to run your business as you choose. There's a better likelihood that you can elect the type of officials that you feel comfortable with if you are in a majority minority district or community. And there's not going to be any sort of rush to eliminate those, but there will likely be a continuing move to eliminate MAGA or Republican majority districts legislatively and congressionally to kind of balance the equities of what will happen in the South, in the Central Plains, and in the mountain states. So if you are in those particular states that I mentioned, basically the 19 who voted for VP Harris, well, and add DC into that as well. So VP Harris, Secretary Clinton, as well as President Biden. And then if we even want to go back beyond that, for President Obama, for for Senator Kerry, and for Al Gore, Vice President Gore, excuse me, and President Clinton, you have a consistent batch of states where you can unilaterally and collectively enter into a marketing strategy to attract people to your states, offering them the ability to live as they choose, parent as they choose, run their businesses as they choose, follow public health and safety guidelines as they choose, and have a freedom from the overreach that you're getting in red states. If I was advising, or if we were advising a Governor Pritzker or Governor Whitmer or Governor Evers in Wisconsin or Governor Newsom or Governor Hochul or any of those, we would be advising them that this is a marketing opportunity. You know, here's a reality. Everything that we do is a consumer choice, including where we decide to live and where we put our children in school, along with who we vote for. Those are all consumer choices. So the ability to make that consumer choice, to decide based on that, if you want to put your business, or you want to raise your family, or you want to, live your empty nester years in states that more so align with your political views, your societal views, your economic views, these states are the ones that should be taking advantage of that marketing to sell themselves to those consumers, to get them to buy their states instead of buying a Florida or buying a Mississippi or buying a Tennessee. And that's not a negative thing. That's just free market competition, because those other states do the same thing in terms of marketing themselves to people that they want to attract to their particular states. Florida and Oklahoma and Arkansas and states like that have been pretty clear that they want people to come to their states, but they want people to come who align with them politically. And if you don't align with them politically, they're not really hospitable to you moving to their state. So, based on that, there's nothing wrong with Democratic majority voting states doing the exact same thing. It might be a departure because it's the feeling of, well, why are we, engaging in this sort of naked, aggressive marketing and public relations and solicitation campaign? But think about the economic engine and activity that African American and Hispanic American and white, conservative, moderate, progressive, liberals, and other minority groups, Jewish and Asian and Arab American, et cetera, who live in these red states, who congregate in blue dots, if you will, in these states and create these vibrant economic engines of activity and education and business growth, but are viewed as outsiders and anomalies, and viewed as not really wanted by their state government. Well, it would make sense to say, come on over. The water's fine. Come on over to Illinois. If you're in Missouri, St. Louis, and Kansas City, and you're about to lose not only both of the congressional seats that you've had, where you can vote for the people you want, but you also are going to probably lose legislative seats. And you have a state that does not really respect your choices, then why not go to Illinois, a state that's going to respect your choices? Illinois should be marketing itself in that particular way. So should Pennsylvania. Market yourself to those that are in, and Virginia. I forgot Virginia. So I think that that is a structural position that blue states should take. Market yourselves to those who are in these particular states: Oklahoma, Montana, Idaho, the southern states that I mentioned, like Alabama, etc. Relocate, come to our particular states. We'll help you with business assistance in terms of business relocation. We'll help you with relocation from a housing vantage point. Create yourselves as migration centers for people who feel an expansive belief in substantive due process rights, more civil liberties freedom, more rights to be able to love your kids and raise your kids in ways that make sense to you and worship in the way that you want to worship. You need to market to that. There's nothing wrong with that. Same thing for the colleges and universities that are trying to attract athletic talent to their particular schools along with academic talent. There's no reason why both a Michigan State, go green, go white, that school in Ann Arbor, Eastern, Central, Western Michigan, U of D, others, University of Detroit Mercy, should not be marketing themselves to the parents who want their children to go to a school, but also go to a school where they can live in a place where they can be who they are and be free and expressive and not have to worry about a overreach in the way that that government treats citizens that don't fit the government's role. I mean, mold, excuse me, the government's mold. So there's significant opportunity here. And I think that the best way to approach this is take advantage of these sorts of decisions to market yourselves as places of opportunity, growth, and freedom. But also, here's the other benefit: going into 2030, if you can grow the numbers from an apportionment vantage point, you can increase the number of congressional seats in Pennsylvania. You can increase the number in the state of New York, in Michigan, in Maryland, in Connecticut or Massachusetts, in Colorado, in Arizona. The opportunities abound. That's a way that you not only rebalance what is happening with the Electoral College, but it's also a way that you grow congressional balance back to your particular states. And you shrink the influence of these states who treat their centers like Memphis and Nashville, Birmingham and Montgomery in Alabama, the Fulton County, Greater Atlanta region in Georgia, Charleston, and some of the urban major urban centers in South Carolina, Miami and Tampa Bay and Orlando and Jacksonville and Florida and other places where they treat them as enemies of the state. No, get those residents to migrate to you. Figure out ways to integrate both the new population and the existing population in ways that balance and create a better economic return for everybody. No, it's a little bit of thinking outside of the box, but one of the things my grandma Foster always said is that in every situation that occurs, no matter how difficult or challenging it is, it also creates an opportunity. So here's an opportunity. If you have more questions or want to talk with us at Banks and Company to see how we could help your state or your county or municipality in one of these states help you with developing these sorts of marketing and engagement strategies, Please visit us at www.bankscompany.us. Also, you can email me at eric@bankscompany.us. We love to have the chance to talk with you and help you strategize on how to build this approach. Remember, even though things seem dark and frustrating and challenging, they also are opportunities for growth, for investment, and for expansion of rights and opportunity. So thank you all. Have a blessed day. And remember, go green, go white.